Hey everybody, it's Everyday Peter over here, and we're doing the very first book review. Oscar's already in motion. He's gonna knock my hand here in a second. He is sniffing about. I've been working from home, so he's very much like he's quiet and he's sleepy all day. But then he hears me talking and he's like, "Well, no one else is in the room, so obviously you must be talking to me and no one else." What a sweet, sweet boy I have. But new type of video. So on top of all the daily vlogs that are going to be coming up that are primarily focused on gratitude, I also wanted to start doing videos on books, video games, and doing potentially a podcast recap. Right now, as this dog is batting my hands and everything, we're just going to go ahead and start with the book review portion. My five favorite books that I read in 2017, and each video is going to just focus on one at a time. I got my gray hoodie on, as you can see. This is like my lounge hoodie. I only wear it at home, only when it's a particularly type of cold. Today's kind of actually pretty nice, but it's fleece, it's soft. It's actually just fresh from the laundry today, so you'll be seeing a lot of it until like springtime. But we're starting off with book number 5, so very bottom of the list, and that's The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. Let me see if can I just straight up flip this. Man, learning on the go, but here's the book. Hopefully you can see it and it's not reversed because that's how it is to me. So this book, just to give it it's a nonfiction title. Essentially, Randy Pausch is this Carnegie Mellon professor. He passed away sadly. Before he passed away from liver cancer or pancreatic cancer. I should really be checking up on these things. It's been a full year since I read this. Was the very beginning of my 2017, and it really painted essentially who I did become in 2017, and it really gave me a lot of guidance straight from the beginning. So tying it back to sort of like resolutions, I would like if you're really into resolutions, grab a few books that aren't about making resolutions, but are just about people who are like life philosophy, lifestyle books. What's really neat about this guy, and why I really highly suggest it, it's a quick read. It's very small. We've got 206 pages, and that's it's a tiny book. You can read this easily in a few days. So Randy gets pancreatic cancer, and he has 3 small boys. I believe like the oldest isn't even 10 years old when he's dated to die, and about a year away, with like a year left in his life, he starts deciding like what are really the most important things. What are the things he wants to focus on, not just in that time. The idea being, if he was a painter and he wanted to leave his children something to remember him by, like something that they can carry with them, he would paint them a picture. If he was a carpenter, he might build them like a beautiful chair. If he was into landscape, maybe a beautiful garden. He's a professor, so he decided that the thing he was going to leave behind, and he videotaped it, and he had like a couple of, maybe not thousands, like he filled an entire lecture hall with people to watch this. But that's where the title of the book comes from, The Last Lecture. He did a final lecture about anything he wanted, and for just an hour and a half, he essentially just talked about life, what he thinks leads to having a fulfilling life, a satisfied life, and a life that is lived to the fullest. I remember crying at the very end because he finishes the book, I think, roughly like 3 months before he actually officially does pass away, and you really get in depth on like who he was and everything that his hopes and dreams for his just like 3 young sons, the wife he was leaving behind, and how they were just trying to spend their final moments together and not to have a lot of like they would get into fights because, and I'm happy he had this sort of perspective that, I mean, how can you not? After he passes away, single mother raising 3 boys, it's gonna be very difficult. They ended up, I think, moving closer to her parents so that they could help with raising the kids, and they would get into these fights that she felt like she almost couldn't have, because here's a man who's dying and trying to do his best, but sometimes like you have to be selfish in some of these situations to get what you need, because almost in a way you are the most important person. You're also not. You're the most important person because these are your final moments. You're trying to fill them with happiness and trying to fill them with things to do. I think he even talks about, like, if you're ever in this position, you have to figure out some things that just have to be just have to slide. They had like a therapist that actually helped them sort of structure their final like year or two together. And one of the things that said was, look, you like Randy, you suck at cleaning up. Try to think of it as much as possible, but also let's not have any pointless fights, because you will be dead in a few months over socks being left over somewhere. Like, be considerate. Like, make yourself a list so that you can keep track of it. It is not your wife's duty to clean up after you. But at the same time, Jay, which is his wife's name, try to bring it up gently. It's this weird mix of, I've never read a book that goes into such details of, well, we have to plan this death. Like one of the things he does talk about is sitting down and actually planning out how you want your final year to go, how you want that final year to be, what is important, what isn't important, what are things that you should do because you've never done them before, what are things you should do because it might be your last time to do those things. I pulled a lot of lessons. I annotated this book quite a bit, and it's just thoughts like that. It's weird. I think reading books like this, what I really like is, even if I try to annotate them, but I don't really get back to the books. I think reading them, it's somewhere in my subconscious, like not controlling me, but it's definitely giving me a different appreciation. It's definitely helped me grow into a better human being, hopefully. And I could not quote you anything that I haven't just said. The biggest reason why this is on the list but not higher is that it definitely made a defining connection and moment for me in 2017. It gave me like a really good foundation for the year total. But I think that so many other things have come into contact because of this launching pad, that it's hard to say what I'm directly using from this guy anymore. That isn't just like, I'm using it as it's like a foundational thing, or other people have said it and it's sort of just been layered on top of each other, like a delicious Oreo pudding. There's definitely, this is a highly serious book based on quick read. That shouldn't be number one, but it's incredibly touching. It gives a lot of life tips, especially how to game plan a loved one's passing away and those final like year or two that you have with them in those final months. I think it does a really great job at that, and I think that there's definitely, if you're getting into some sort of appreciation or gratitude, because this is what this book is definitely where this idea seated itself in me. This is a great book to start with. Again, it's a quick read, but that's a quick read, and it's a compliment, because it means what he had to say, he didn't need 800 pages for it. He didn't have to like beat it into the ground. It's really like a lot of quick pickup things that you can easily address and put into your life and your soul, essentially, right from the get-go. So, book number 5 for the beginning of my top 5 list of 2017, The Last Lecture. Check it out. If you've read this before, tell me what your thoughts are about it. Or maybe what's a book that was foundational for you last year, or even just recently? Like, what's a book that you're really doing a lot of shifts in your life? Please comment that below. And of course, please subscribe. These videos are going to come out every Tuesday. I'm filming this on Monday so that I could do work on it, but now I realize I probably didn't really need that much work because I just held it up I don't think it really needs that much. I'm sure some slight editing would be helpful. So I'm gonna try to do some of that light editing, and you know what? I'm gonna stick to Tuesdays. It's gonna be Tuesdays. I'm gonna delete this part, or I'm gonna save it. Maybe it's a little bit funny. We'll see. But subscribe, comment below what your thoughts are on what I just asked, and I will see you next week with a new book review, book number 4 of 2017. And then I'll also just see you later today for the daily vlog. Cool.